come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale light?
We all go a little mad sometimes.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
What I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career.
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli. Round up the usual suspects. I'm kind of a big deal.
Good debating, King.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Hi, once again, everybody. I'm Ed Berliner, and welcome into another edition of The Man in the Arena. That's right, the only show live on anywhere. Internet makes no difference, television, radio, where we don't have to talk politics to actually have a good time. Stunning as that is. For those of you watching us live on YouTube, Twitter, and on Facebook, don't forget that once the show is over, or even if you're not watching us, you can probably remember, too, that once the show is over, you can catch us on our YouTube page, which is at welcometothearena.com. All the shows are posted there. And don't forget, as if you possibly could, because I remind you all the time how incessant of me, that you can download the audio to every show on all of the major audio podcasts. Or if you'd like, just go to edberliner.com. There's a page there for Man in the Arena podcasts. It'll give you the links. It'll send you there. Download, listen to your heart's content. Subscribe, be part of it, be part of the enjoyment. And thank you very much. Thanks for shopping, and thanks for playing. To sports, if you will, for a change. We are still here. It's still the COVID-19 summer, even though we want to get rid of it. And thank God it will no longer be the COVID-19 summer in a few weeks. It'll be something different. Then it's the fall. Back to sports, if you will, back to high school and college sports, because it makes no difference. Every place you look, there's still discussion of, are we doing the right thing? Are we not doing the right thing? And not only that, but here's another issue just to throw into all this. What about all the power grabs that are going on all across the country when it comes to these athletic associations, the conferences? Everybody wants a piece of the pie. Everybody wants to be making the right decision. Meantime, you have from county to county to county. You could literally leapfrog from counties in the state of Florida, and you could find a different set of rules in almost every single different county when it comes to protecting the kids, the coaches, and everybody involved. Let's get to it, if you will. Welcome in, my friend. He is, of course, and I keep telling everybody, he is the finest when it comes to the national analysis on high school and college recruiting. We'll tell you where to find him, because you can find him all over the place when it comes to Florida high school sports, the different websites, and the different Twitter accounts. Man's got more Twitter accounts than I have Hawaiian shirts, and that's frightening. A pleasure once again to welcome in Larry Blustein into the Man in the Arena. Yet Larry does not wear Hawaiian shirts, and we have to figure out why. I have never seen you in a Hawaiian shirt. I feel like I have to buy you one to make you part of the crew here, brother.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to. I think maybe I have one. It's just this. I gained the COVID-50, so I can't kind of fit into anything anymore. But no, it's we're kind of getting out of the house now. And last weekend I made my first venture to a football game. I went up to Venice. Not in the solar system, Venice, but certainly
not in Italy, of course. We're not telling him. Larry did not take the plane to Italy, although it'd be nice. I'd love to see high school football played there. That'd be neat.
Yeah, well, they're still having their own problems. But I went to see the nation's #1 team, IMG, which is a collaboration of football talent from everywhere on this planet, even Florida. They had 4 or 5 kids against Venice, at Venice, and it was supposed to be one of those games where it was the first game of the year in Florida. It was kind of where schools in Utah have played 3 weeks. Michigan has played. Ohio has played. A lot of different states in the country. Alabama has opened up. Texas not yet, but will. But we're still in that, everybody wearing masks, everybody, sanitizing, and low crowds. to see if we could get these kids some film and to get this season underway. And frankly, it's a little bit uncomfortable walking around in 90-degree weather with 100% humidity with a mask on. But nevertheless, I did it for almost 3 hours. National television audience on ESPNU. And here we are.
You took
back
one for the
football
team, didn't you? Atta boy.
I took it for several teams. It was
well,
it was different, and certainly not what I'm used to. I've kind of spaced out some things during the month of August and then into September, where I went to little venues, but did my social distancing. Watched, didn't do anything more than a fist bump, and had a lot of sanitizer to clean my hands off, but. Seems like
with all the traveling you do, I mean, that's as it with all the traveling you do and all the people that you talk to across the country, as I pointed out, the one thing that is a consistent, if there is a constant in all this, it's the changing of the rules. It's the way things, even though we have a CDC and the National Institute of Health, and we have various physicians and experts who are telling us exactly how to knock down this virus once and for all, every county, every region, everybody has their own set of rules. I mean, how confusing is this? To the teams, to the coaches, to the administrations, to the associations, and to the parents, knowing that a lot of times, for instance, in South Florida, you'll play a game in Dade County, you'll have to go to Broward County to play, you may then have to play in Palm Beach County, and you may go on the road to play a national event in Texas or in California, where the rules are entirely different.
Sure. Well, here's the thing. First off, the first three counties that you mentioned haven't even started conditioning. They haven't even started conditioning as a team, which that makes since March.
Which is so Broward, Dade, and Palm Beach County in South Florida, which are three of the greatest hotbeds for high school and college football athletic talent in the country.
No question. And the thing is, and we've talked about this over and over again, the state association, the Florida High School Activities Association, took it upon itself to, in a vote of people who really are confused, to start the season, but start it in a way where you leave 50% of these areas out. And certainly in South Florida, you're talking 7 of the 8 state champions from last year. I just think there's a problem. I don't care. I don't mind saying it. A leadership problem. The FHSAA, the Florida High School Athletic Association, should have never started this season until everybody was ready. I said it before. I'll keep reiterating it. Now you take powerhouse programs from Miami-Dade and Broward and Palm Beach out of the mix for a state title. You give these kids in the northern part of the state an opportunity to play. Why belong to an association if everybody's not?
I'm going to play devil's advocate here with everybody else. Let's go ahead and take one side of it as well.
Okay.
Because you said something. You said the people are confused, and that's at the FHSAA. These are the people who make the rules and the regulations. Why are they so confused? These are adults, Larry. How could they be confused when, literally speaking, the rules are sitting right out there in front of them? It seems like all you got to do is sit and read them.
Well, first of all, the last A in this connotation is association, which means everybody's a part of this association. And to me, they've done it in California, they've done it in Virginia, they've done it in 6 other states, Nevada, where they're not starting their fall season until everybody starts the fall season together. And that's the one thing to me why Miami-Dade County and some of the power people in Dade County have wanted to pull away from the FHSAA and kind of like do their own thing. And you can't blame them. I mean, it's ridiculous. You have some, if you really want to take a look at numbers, in Miami-Dade and Broward and Palm Beach County, you have 85% of the Power 5 recruits coming from those three counties. So why wouldn't you kind of, if you're an association, try to make it advantageous for your own association to look a lot better, to start this thing all at the same time? So a St. Thomas Aquinas and a Cardinal Gibbons, who are members of the Broward County Athletic Association, wouldn't kind of pull rank, because they don't have to stay with the association, and they didn't this year. They're going to start playing, I believe, in a week or so. But that means all the public schools who belong to the Greater Miami Athletic Conference, the Palm Beach Athletic Association, and the Broward County Athletic Association has to wait till science will dictate the numbers, because they're not, again, let me just preface it by saying that none of the three counties that I just mentioned are back in the classroom either. So they're all still distance learning.
Well, then let's just answer that then. Let's stick with that, because the point you bring up here. Why then wouldn't you wait? You made the great point. 85% of the star athletes are sitting right there.
Yeah.
So why then not wait? I don't know why, but all of a sudden the word arrogant is spitting into the back of my head right now. But there's got to be a reason, right? Logical reason.
Well, and here's what I hear, and it's, to me, it just wants to make me jump from the highest building when I hear it. When they go, well, he won't be able to play basketball, or he won't be able to wrestle or play another winter sport if we start too late. Now, may I remind you that we're in a pandemic like no other in our lifetime, and perhaps maybe never again in our lifetime. So don't you think there's going to be some sacrifice made? We're lucky to even be able to go outside and not, and go to the grocery and do all. And these people are worried about Junior not being able to play another sport. Come on. I mean, to me, in a perfect world, when you wanted to try to, we figure at the first of the year, they have the 3 trials on the vaccines and they may be out. Why wouldn't you at least give that an opportunity before you start bringing everybody to the party and leaving out the better teams and the better programs and the athletes, from joining that party? And that's the thing that gets me the most, and people around the state agree. I mean, I get this all the time. Even though their kids are back playing, they figure, well, why wouldn't, if this was reversed, we would hope that South Florida would be waiting on Jacksonville and Orlando and Tallahassee and all these other places.
Well, that's a good point too. We really don't know if Southern Florida counties would bother to wait either. There's an arrogant power struggle that's going on here right now between the associations, and I think not only here in Florida, but certainly Florida it focuses on because of the amount of talent that's here. But if you look at it, there's an arrogance in California, there's an arrogance in Texas, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, in New York, and all these different places. But certainly it's personified in Florida, where the head cheeses, who are getting a tremendous amount of attention, if you will, I don't know if they get paid a lot of money, but they're basically the ones making these decisions that affect thousands of kids and thousands of parents. Meantime, you've got the counties pulling back forth here, saying, no, we want to wait. We need to get everybody together. I don't recall ever a power struggle like this at this level before in the Sunshine State. But I also don't see how this is ever going to be solved unless adults sit down and decide to solve it.
2 things. First of all, it wasn't enough, and it wasn't an ego trip for California, which annually out of the top 25 teams in the nation has 9 to 10 of them. They're all starting in late December, early January. So it wasn't an issue for them, who usually has as much talent as anybody in the country and has to feed all the schools in the West and in the Midwest as well. Secondly, when you were talking about county by county, there are not too many administrators and superintendents that are going to lose their jobs just to put athletes back on the field in the fall. In Miami-Dade and Broward and Palm Beach, that is a sticking point, because whether it be in Miami-Dade County, where where the numbers were the highest for the longest time, and they've come down under 5%. But then again, when everybody always asks me what makes a bad hurricane season? If the hurricane hits you. So obviously, if COVID is what makes a COVID a bad deal, well, if you get sick from it. So that's my point. So even though the numbers may be lower, that one chance, I'll give you 2 programs that started their practicing and getting ready for the season. Vero Beach Senior High School. 2 kids get sick. All the whole team quarantines for 14 days. So do you want to stop? Do you want to stop? Same thing in Orlando, one of the bigger schools in Orlando. They have COVID problems. They have to stop. They have to go into quarantine for 14 days.
Well, let me go ahead and point this out, too. You're talking about Orlando. That's Orange County. And right now they're talking about shutting down schools and certain schools and districts there because they have a COVID-19 outbreak. And matter of fact, they're calling it a cluster that has been traced to kids going to a birthday party. And they come back into the school, bang, and the school gets hit. And they're trying desperately to stop it in its tracks right there. So the administrators and the people in northern Florida, the people who make these athletic decisions, if you will, can say, oh, well, we're not as bad off as Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. But look what's happening here. It's across the state. I'm looking at Polk County, Florida. 67 cases on 36 campuses. Okay, that's 2 for every school. People will say, not a big deal. Yeah, it's not a big deal until your kid is the one getting sick. So it's almost mind-boggling that these power brokers, if you will, are picking and choosing who's going to be allowed to continue, not only at the state level, but at the county level, without one damn care in the world about the health of the kids or the coaches.
And we don't have the returns from 2 days ago when thousands upon thousands of Floridians hit the beaches from all over on Labor Day.
And that'll take 2 weeks. It's not like it happens overnight.
Well, exactly. It's going to be a residual thing we saw up in smaller towns in northern Florida where they had parties at lakes with hundreds and hundreds of people, no masks, no cares in the world. But over the next week or so, those kids, those parents that went, we'll see what happens. I'm not a prude, but at the same time, I figure the way I figure, and
just a pair of old guys. That's all. That's what they'll say. You're a bunch of old guys.
Yeah, well, like you said, old guys until you get the disease. That's I mean, and then everybody wants your sympathetic ear. So the whole thing that I could tell you this is. And I'm not second guessing. I'm not doing anything any different than I did when you and I talked 6 weeks ago. The main thing is places like Florida should have never started the fall season. I know that the people in Madison County and Blustein and throughout the Panhandle feel otherwise. And I obviously agree with what their thinking is. But if you're a member of an association that's playing with the entire state, again, California did it because from San Diego up to Northern California, you have almost 900 miles. 900 miles in one state. So that means they figured that if the state is going to be governed together, then let's do it together. Same thing in Florida. From that boot in the Panhandle all the way across from Pensacola down to Key West, you're talking 875 miles. A lot of little areas, a lot of big areas, and that's the one thing that I say. Smaller areas, smaller states like Rhode Island and even Georgia, which isn't the largest state in the world, could obviously control things and keep things under, perspective. But you're talking about Florida with 2 time zones. That's why Texas hasn't been in a rush to start. I believe some of the schools are starting this week. But look at where we're at. We're in September. We're September 9th already. This thing has been festering all the way since April 1st. And if you remember back then when people talked about the college season, and if you're a Big Ten fan or a Pac-12 fan back in April 1st, and Ed Berliner and Larry Blustein said to you, oh, there's a chance that they won't play. You go, yeah, they're not. There's 5 months in between now. Things are going to be resolved. Well, as you could see, when I said this a long time ago and you said this thing's not going away overnight. It's not going away. It's not going to magically go away on November 4th. It's not going away until we have this under control. Yeah, and there's a lot of thinking that I hear, and a lot of people send, crazy messages to me and tell me, oh, you're just – you're being way overboard on this. The flu kills more people.
Oh, God, here we go again.
Aren't you a little bit tired of that rationale already? But we're in a pandemic.
I've been tired of it for weeks, months.
months. But that's what I'm saying. This is not, and when people listen to Dr. Fauci, I mean, listen, you can say what you want about the man, but he's devoted his whole life to studying diseases and causes, and I would much rather listen to him than my plumber down the street, believe me, who has oh yeah, he's wrong. No, yeah, he's wrong, but you're right, and I'm over that. But I just, from time to time, I got to give an opinion when people are asking me, because I don't just go on at random and start going on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and saying, well, this is what should be, but when I'm asked, I'll tell you what I think, because I'm one of those people who travel. I've been to all these areas. I see, I don't sit in my living room all the time. I have an opportunity to know what's going on. I have the pulse of the entire state. And even in Pensacola, which is kind of a remote area, they're going through a problem too, because you have to remember that it's home to a naval base, which obviously has transient people coming in and out. Same thing when you go up to Jacksonville. Even up in the Space Coast, where you have Patrick Air Force Base up in Satellite Beach, and so anytime you have transient people in a smaller area, you're always going to be subject to something happening. So no, it's not being OG, it's not being prude. What it is just being understanding of what the situation is.
More than anything else. I get that, and you and I have been talking about that now for months. Let me get back to conferences, associations, and counties, if you will, because you and I have touched on this a few times. Between Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County, so much of the talent in the state of Florida, but nationally as well, comes out of those three counties. People need to look, because you have schools from across the United States that are recruiting players out of South Florida. Certainly they do it out of California, Texas, Pennsylvania as well, but this is the hotbed. So you have those three counties where so many great players come from on a regular basis. The issue here is the Florida High School Athletic Association, and we've talked about them and the power that they wield. And you've intimated to this a few times that maybe these three counties would strike out on their own. Well, okay, now, let's take that, because I don't think people quite understand that. Can they do that? What does that mean for the overall competitive balance in the state of Florida? What does it mean for the kids in recruiting? Or in the end, does it mean anything at all, where they'll just play sports within those three counties and basically create, in essence, a super conference?
Well, here's the deal. I mean, you're going to have to remain as a dues-paying member of the FHSAA, but you could be like IMG, which is an academy that does the same thing. They're members of the FHSAA, but they don't do anything that is required. They don't compete for state titles. They don't compete for districts. They don't do anything. They'll play teams from the state of Florida. But here's the reason why that you're going to have to keep an association with the FHSAA is if you do start scheduling your own programs outside the state, you're going to have an association. A lot of these teams from Texas and Ohio and Pennsylvania require that the teams that they're playing are not a renegade program, that they have to be, of state sanctioned by the state. So that's the only reason why. It would hurt the rest of the state. It's not going to hurt the South Florida kids, because here's the deal. In South Florida, you have so much talent, so many teams that they can play one another and get 10 times the amount of college coverage than anywhere else in the state of Florida will. So what it's going to do, in essence, it's going to hurt the rest of the state by those three counties ever, if they do. I'm not real sure if they're going to do it.
It's like creating a super conference, where you will have they could build themselves, if you think of the marketing aspects of it, they could build themselves as the tri-county, most powerful tri-county athletic association in high school sports in America, and you could have advertisers flocking just to be part of those schools, underwriters to be part of it. You'd have money. The money would be thrown at them. Certainly there's some other great schools in Tampa and other areas of the country, Jacksonville, Orlando. But Larry, I can see the Gatorades and the sneaker companies and the rest of them. I mean, they'll just
go bonkers.
They'll just bring in the bucks and they'll be throwing it at them. It's a great idea. And think of the pressure that would put on the FHSAA, or would it? Would they care? Could they take any legal action? Would they try to stop them?
Probably not, because they're getting their dues, by them all being members. So they're making their money. That where they're going to lose is from a national perspective, especially at playoff time. And think about this. Wouldn't you, as a sports fan, let's say on December 14th, would much rather see number 1 St. Thomas against number 2 Northwestern rather than St. Thomas having to play a school from outside the area, or maybe Miami Central going against Plantation American Heritage, 2 national programs playing? They would get more crowd because it would be local. They wouldn't have to go up to Orlando or Daytona or wherever the state title is. So they could have it in their own backyard, create a good sponsorship. There's a lot of businesses in South Florida that would buy into that. And I think that they would benefit themselves. They could still play those nationally rated teams during the course of the year. But at the end, create your own, like you said, a power conference playoff, and from Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, and IMG. Throw IMG in the mix, because they're a powerhouse, and anybody else who would like to be in that little structure, and then you have it made, because like you said, go ahead.
No, but where we're going here is fascinating, because what would then stop? And if we are talking to a national audience right now as well. If you have a super conference in South Florida, what would then stop a super conference from forming, or 2 of them in Texas, 2 of them in California, 1 in Pennsylvania, one in Colorado, if you will, wherever? Could we not be looking at, because of COVID-19 and because of how things have changed, the very real possibility that schools who are looking to make money, and they're all talking about the fact that they need money to fund these programs, could look to gather together and become they still pay their bills to the state associations, but if you create super conferences in high school athletics, everything else be damned, it's going to kill the smaller schools, and it will kill the opportunity for a lot of these kids to be seen. But when I think of the money that's involved, and I'm not being the greedy one here, I know that the others are, they're going to be greedy right off the bat. Could you not see that as a possibility in the future?
Yes, I could. And you know what? And that would even be a better scenario, to take the 8 top teams from South Florida, as they finished up, in their quote-unquote super conference, and match them against maybe 4 teams from Texas and 4 teams from California that aren't playing, mostly California, because Texas plays for the state titles. Sometimes the private schools like Bishop Amat and Mater Dei and some of those schools in California don't play for the true state titles, so they could always bring those teams in one year. They could have it all in this area, another time they could have it in California. And they could definitely do that. And don't you think that Fox TV and some of these ESPN would jump on that in a second? Because
the bidding wars would
care?
Be out of hand at that point, because now that you have Fox is owned by Sinclair Broadcasting, and they're looking to bring more money in, it's no longer Fox. So now they need more money as well to basically make up for all the dollars that they spent. And then you have local and regional, and you still have, look, what we're broadcasting on right now. We're doing this live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Take the same thing and create what they call the OTT, the over-the-top networks. Yeah. And you've basically got the opportunity to do any game. You can do thousands of games at once, and the money would be rolling. I see this as happening, but I'm not sure it's a good thing, because, as I said, it's going to keep a lot of kids in smaller high schools from being seen. I can see the money going to the super conferences in high school and then drying up along the side for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th rated high schools. That would destroy them. I could see programs having to be disbanded eventually.
Yeah. Well, they could have their own little state championship.
But would they really make any money?
Yeah, but if you go to any 1A, 2A, 3A, or mostly a 4A state title, your maximum crowd is probably about 1,300 or 1,400. Because think about this, 1A, 2A, and 3A are all parochial or private schools. How much of a following does a private school have? Not really a lot, because of the fact that, because you're not in a community. You have some alumni, you have parents and stuff. And I've seen it for now 50 years of how it's unfolded, that your Miami Northwesterns against the St. Thomas Aquinas or Christopher Columbuses against Miami Central for titles, or just, for in bowl game atmospheres, you're going to get 5, 6, 7,000, maybe 8, 9, 10,000. You're going to get a lot of the areas. Maybe Florida International or Florida Atlantic would kick in and maybe say, okay, instead of paying this much for the rental of the stadium, we'll do this. We'll cut it and we'll at least give you we'll at least have it on our campus type of thing, because that way and then you're going to get Fox or whatever, ESPN, come in and say, hey, listen, you mind if we televise these state title games? Because right now it's done on a Bright House, or whatever Bright House is now. It's a
regional cable network in Central Florida, like a lot of regional cable networks are across the country, who will then pick it up. But they certainly don't have the coverage, and they certainly don't have then the coverage, which then means the amount of money that they can charge advertisers. Nothing like what a reconstituted Fox network, ESPN, or even NBC. Look, NBC Sports Network is out there. CBS has got a sports network. They're all out there looking for product right now. And if you put it here on the internet, you are still looking at another way that people can view the games. See, I would see the super conferences taking over CBS, NBC, ESPN, the reconstituted Fox networks, if you will, and then the smaller schools would wind up here on an internet basis, on an OTT basis, where they could still have advertisers, they could still do games, and it wouldn't cost them nearly as much to have to broadcast the games, and they can make a couple of bucks and still basically help to pay some of their athletic costs.
And you're right. And you know what? It's not me
Quick,
taking
call my agent, man. We got it. That's it. Call my agent. We're bringing him in right now.
Well, it's not me taking a shot at any one or any organization, but I just think in all the people with the FHSA and all these other groups, I've been there, done that. I've been around through a lot of their lifetimes, and I've seen the structure, and I've never really said anything. I really let it just flow year in and year out. But, there's a time where you figure, and just talking to people in California and Virginia, where they all came together and said, listen, we're going to start later on because we want everybody to be involved. And I don't understand why that never happened. And I'm not the only one. I get hundreds and hundreds of correspondence all the time, Ed, about the same thing, that why didn't the Florida High School Athletic Association come together and say, listen, the direct, forget about the board of directors, but the leader, the number one honcho, said, listen, this is how it's going to be. We're going to keep everybody in this state happy. This is a pandemic that never happened before in our lifetime and will never happen again. So we have to think a little bit out of the box, and we have to understand we got to keep these people happy, because there's going to be some residuals. There's a lot of people who are independent thinkers, and I don't think that organizations give that a thought, which they should, because there's too many people in high places that have some of those ideas and that can implement those ideas. And I think that's where people are missing out.
All right, let's move on then outside of the money aspect of things with the head honchos at the top. One of these days, I'd like to see their tax returns and see how much money they make and how much money flows under the table. But that's another story.
Tax returns, and you're asking for theirs?
Yeah. Well, that's what I said, brother. It's all under the table. It's like, don't worry about it, man. It's all off to the side. I'd like to see some times where some of that money goes, because money never really gets all reported at certain times. But that's just I'm assuming things, and I'm just saying things out loud. I'm not charging anybody with anything specific whatsoever. Okay, we're not doing any of that. Let's turn to the athletes here themselves, because now we're talking about the high school athletes. Everything's changed. Everybody's on a schedule. They have been now for decades, and all of a sudden everything's been thrown higgledy-piggledy, if you will, and they have to wonder if they're ever going to wind up at college, and now we have recruiting that's changed and everything else. But how do we go about rebuilding the high school athletes themselves, the gals, the guys, the ones who now are sitting there with nothing to do, and sometimes their parents are overly arrogant, and people like us are overly arrogant, and there's people in positions of power who are big blustery windbags that don't know what they're doing. You deal with the kids and you talk to them and their parents. You've been doing it for years. What are the changes that you see, and how do we rebuild them now to make them believe that this is not only the best for you, but it will turn out to be the best for you down the road?
And it's a 1-year deal right now. That's all. People are acting like this is going to be something that's going to be for the duration of our life. This is just something that that all of a sudden came along. Nobody was ever prepared for it. And obviously, how could you be? You could never, you could always say, well, if a we've watched enough movies, we've had enough swine flus, but this kind of like took that and just put it in the background. I just think that when you take a look at it, and honestly, time is a great healer. And I think what's going to happen is a year from now, we're going to be in a whole better place, and we're going to look back and say, why did we panic so much? We should have just let things take, let everything take its course. Everything will work out fine. It's an optimistic view. Maybe it's sometimes just a hopeful view. But I think in this case, we've seen hurdles in the past where we've gotten over them. Right after 9/11, things changed. Right after another episode, things changed. Now we're obviously, after this pandemic, the way of life is going to change. It's going to be altered. But that's how life is. Go back to the 1800s and trace it all the way back or all the way up to here to 2020, and you're going to see how life alters. And that's just the way it is. But to me, you have to be able to think out of the box. And we have people, we have politicians. If anything, politicians have shown that they don't belong. And I'm not saying all, but there's a lot of politicians that you voted for. And I'm not just talking about on a national, but I'm talking about your local government who have not reacted very well to this. Your governors, your local community leaders who
Governors,
have not,
senators, mayors, councilmen, councilwomen, people in a position of authority at city leadership roles. No, because if you look, a lot of them have been pissing and moaning and whining and bitching at each other, just like the national side of things. And this is over high schools and high school kids and the health of high school kids. I've seen some of the video of these city council meetings where you can actually tell that there's rancor going on between them constantly. There's anger between them. There's a hatred that spits between them because this has split everybody, where they're more concerned about their opinions than they are about medical opinions. And that's really where it starts and begins.
And that's the thing when you and I talked last time, that a governing body like the one here in Florida for the high schools solicited science and had somebody who was well qualified to tell you all about what the ramifications were and how to prepare. And that person and that organization told you exactly what they found and what they believe, and you ignored them. And that's the thing that gets me the most. You ignored them like, you know what? Okay, we had to have you in here just to fulfill that science requirement. But I will tell you this. If you're not going to listen to experts, and I don't care, I know that there are so many people in this world that have all the answers, and that's the greatest thing in the world because you can't tell them anything. So obviously there's going to be, and wouldn't it be a terrible world if everybody felt the same, because we wouldn't have anything to bitch about, we wouldn't have anything to say, well, he said and this is wrong. But that's
Sports talk radio would go away awful fast.
Yeah, exactly. But that's my point. What this is shining a huge spotlight on, especially since April 1st, is the fact that we have people in leadership positions that simply do not belong there. And that's the end of the discussion. And I think that enough people have kind of seen those people, Ed, and understand. So when the next election comes along, they won't be there. And that's just the way it is. And if you're going to ask why, it's just people are not leaders. People are mostly followers. And that's just the way it is.
From the student athlete side, then, let's say this. It's up to the administrators, the coaches, but the parents especially, to get behind the kids at all times and tell them, as you said, this is 1 year. You've got a lot more. I understand that things are not as you expected them to be, but your talent is there. Your intelligence is there. You're going to get a hell of an education. We have to push behind you. The parents have to do this at all times and try and support them. more than try to tear down the system in front of them and give their kids something to watch and go, well, my mom's not happy, my dad's not happy. No, get behind the kids and promote them. Now, doing that and giving the kids that kind of support that they need. I'm sorry if you're 18, 19, I'm calling you a kid. Don't worry about it. It's okay. So I don't mean anything by it. I'm just old. But if you understand that, let's then look at the next step, which is recruiting, because that's huge. And what used to be a couple of months a year is now 12 months out of the year between the colleges and the high schools. How, if in any way, is COVID-19 going to change the recruiting process? Because we already had a lot of recruits putting out their playing games, events, whatever, on video, on the web. They were out on social media. A lot of colleges were already using that. Now they use more of it than ever before. So is it really going to change that much from what we've seen in recent years, or just continue along the same path of, yeah, we'll see you when we can, but we still are going to get all these other elements that we can to make a decision?
Yeah, I think you're not going to see much of a change. I think it's just going to go back to the way it was when it's able to do that. And the NCAA, which is another whole program in itself.
Please, let's not go there. We only have a few minutes left. We'll kill ourselves.
Yeah. But I'm saying that they have a lot to do with that as well, Ed, in the rules that they come up with. But, yeah, I think that when all this blows over and you get back to the spring where you have spring football and then you have summer camps next year and protocol for those kids who are, who understand that, they could get sick, they just take it, when they say, well, we can't shake hands anymore, we can't do this, we can't do that. Over time, things will loosen up. You'll feel a lot better about yourself. You use your own discretion on what you can and what you can't do, because like everybody said, well, you know what? We've had the flu for so many years and these people get sick and they could die and they do die and I don't care about that anymore. I just know that we got to get back to the point where you're not second guessing and you're not thinking about what you're doing all the time. Just live life. And I think that's coming. It'll be, probably be next May, June, when everything kind of gets back. But it will, because I think you're going to see after this cycle is over, things are going to loosen up a little bit. There's going to be the protocols all going to be in place. I mean, you'll see even at restaurants, you're going to have, it's going to be the way it is for years and years to come, where you're going to have more outdoor dining, less seating. You'll see. It's just going to be it's after 9/11. Remember, when I remember I used to fly in the 1990s all the time. Never had to take off my belt, not had to do any of that stuff. But now that's protocol, and it's just the way it is. It's just how life is. It's life.
It's the point where people such as us who are analysts, commentators, whatever, opinionators, we need to push the message forward. So do the parents need to push the message forward, and the coaches and the teachers and the administrators to the student athletes, and tell them that you will still have an opportunity. You've lost, like we all have, a normal way of life, but your talent is still there. Your brain is still there. You will still get an education. You will still move forward in life. So stop sitting in your own spit, if you will, and letting everybody else around you and all of these haters and fear-mongers, whatever you want to call them, and everybody just basically spitting something else out. Stop. It's going to be okay. We'll get through this. It will be a new life, which everybody's got to understand. Here's one of the things, I don't know about you, but I love to hear this. When people go, life after COVID-19. No. COVID-19 is like the flu. It will be with us probably for the rest of our lives. It's not going to go away. So let's consider what we have to do here. Get behind the student athletes. Tell them, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. The only question then is, are the colleges themselves, who are so vehement and so and have so much fight in them over going after athletes in any sport, are they going to pull back just a little bit and give the athletes a little break because of the interruption they had in their high school career? That's the question.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of these colleges have interrupted their collegiate life. Look at programs like in the Mid-American Conference and also the Ivy League who are not playing this year. So to me, when someone goes, "Oh, this is overblown," yeah, overblown to the point where a lot of these schools and a lot of these conferences are going to blow away billions of dollars just because it's overblown, and they're not. They're taking precautions. They're trying to get over this. Remember, 11 NCAA programs have been canceled at Stanford. 7 at Cincinnati. So that's what I'm saying. You have programs just in something that is quote unquote overblown. These people are going to take, it's going to take a decade for a lot of these programs if they ever get back. Because remember, you still have to observe. Somebody's always going to observe the Title IX rule. And if you have a men's sport, you got to have a women's sport. And there's always going to be ways to that people are going to put roadblocks up. So to me, the end result is live your life cautiously, take your precautions, understand that time is the great healer, and things will be back. Maybe not like they were, but then again, after 9/11, which is, are we at 9/11 2 days from now?
We are 2 days away as we are taping this show at September the 9th, and we are 2 days away from the 19th anniversary of September the 11th. So let's think about it this way.
And how much has changed? How much changed from that moment when that faithful morning to where we are 19 years later? A lot.
And
because
remember
you look back,
that the kids who are out there right now, the high school kids who we're talking about, they don't know from 9/11. They weren't even born. And the college athletes that we're talking about right now, what, 2, 3, 4 years of age when all this happened? So we need to, and you bring up an excellent point, which I think we need to interject here. For those of us who are old enough to remember, and for me it's horribly emotional. I have to choke back tears every time I think about 9/11 and the people, the places, and everything that was there. But we have to tell them, this is what happened 19 years ago. Life went on. We changed, we adapted. It's not perfect, but it's not what it used to be, but it's what it is now. It's going to be the same thing here. Things will change. Life will go on.
Yep.
And I think we have to, again, especially the parents and the administrators, I'm going to take you to task. It's your responsibility to get behind these young student athletes and tell them life will go on. You will play. You will have an education. You will get married. You will have children. You will have careers. You will do all these wonderful things. But it's going to be a different world. We're behind you. We support you. And I think if we get more of that instead of just the arguments that constantly go on and the power grabs, I'm going to put those in there as well, Larry, I think the student athlete's going to be a whole lot better off for it.
Yep, I agree. Well, all right. Spirited conversation. Well,
but that's just it. We have to at least tell people that put a little hope in here. I'm getting a little tired of everything being dour and nasty and spits going on. Let's put a little hope in here at the end of the day, because we've got enough anger going on. I'm walking away from a lot of it these days. I'm going to shut down a lot of these conversations on my social media, Larry, because I'm tired of it. It's infectious. It's a black-hearted soul is what it creates. So every now and then, that's why I tell people, when you come to my Facebook page, every now and then there's going to be something about puppies. That's sort of my escape, is to go ahead and get that in there. So have some fun with it and realize that life is going to go on. And as life goes on, reminders again. Boy, I like the way I make those segues. It's almost like I had to do this for
like you've been in this business for a while.
Like I've been in this business for a while. I must know what the hell I'm doing, all right? To get a hold of Larry Blustein. Oh, by the way, don't forget at the end of the show here, coming up in just a couple of minutes, how one school is dealing with not the coaches and not the athletes, but another group of people to make sure that the players and the sports are safe during the era of COVID-19. You'll see that COVID-19. You'll see that report in just a couple of seconds here. Don't forget for Larry Blustein, he is all over Twitter. It's at Larry Blustein, at SFHS Sports, at Prep Red Zone FL. He's all over those three spots. Make sure you grab him there. Also, you can find Larry Blustein at PrepRedZoneFlorida.com. You can read his work there. The rest as they cover high school athletics. And also, shocker if you will, he has his own eponymously named website. It is LarryBlustein.com. You can find all that information right there. Get in touch with Larry. Don't forget that this show also is going to be able to be downloaded and listened to as well. You can listen to all of our wonderful words, and we'll be back again. Larry, always a pleasure, my friend. Be good, be safe.
Back at you.
Let's just hope that one of these days we can gather in person again, man. You can have a cup of coffee. I'll drink the beer. Whatever it takes, man. We'll get it from there. We'll talk to you next week. Hopefully better news, my friend. Take care. Larry Blustein joins us here on The Man in the Arena. Don't forget, in just a couple of seconds, you'll find out what one school is doing to make sure that everybody stays safe in the era of COVID-19. Or, in my fact, COVID-19. Stunning at the end of the day. Even the mouth stops working when you do the show every now and then, but you have to make sure you get it back up right and everything's fine. And I'll leave this in the final mix because who cares? It's all what life is anyway. For Larry Blustein, everybody here, I'm Ed Berliner. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Be safe, be healthy, and until we meet again right here on The Man in the Arena, rock on, true believers. See ya.
The University Interscholastic League issued a statement yesterday, or on Monday, I should say, threatening to ban fans from high school football games. Now, apparently, the UIL saw photos from games last week of fans not social distancing or wearing masks. I'm really not sure where that happened because of all the games that we shot, the ones in our area, none of that was going on. Everybody was behaving themselves. But in their statement, the UIL also says it would consider shutting down sports if protocols are not followed. Now, the UIL, in its statement, also reminded schools that fans and all employees, parents, visitors, and students 10 years of age or older have to wear a mask or a face shield. Right now, the UIL is allowing fans at 50% capacity. Now, the Northeast ISD sent out a tweet with the UIL statement and a message to the fans. 4A and below, they say, kicked off the football season last week, and the biggest problem was not the virus, rather the attendees not following protocols. When our time comes, do not be that person. And of course, their time will come. NEISD and other schools in the 5A and 6A ranks will kick off practice on Monday. Then they will begin play later this month. And you hate to hear threats like that from the UIL simply because, well, these coaches and players and their communities, well, they've all been through a lot and they want to see some football. And obviously the coaches and the players are ready to get this thing going. In fact, some of the coaches told us today that they wish that they could have been playing last week. Now, players have been coming in for strength and conditioning, and these teams, well, they've all been working very hard. It's not just on the X's and O's, but working hard to make sure that they're following all the rules.
Part of normal right now. And so I think the more people are around it, the more people go to games, the more that people understand how they have to be seated in the bleachers and to do those things. Once it becomes a normal routine, it's something we won't even think about.
It's different, but I tell you what, and I told our coaching staff this last night before we closed out the evening, and I said there's a lot of learning that we're learning from what we're doing here. And so it's not all a negative. I think there's some things that we'll take of what we're doing safety-wise and protocols and everything, just keep it going through our program because it has made us a little bit better.
It is what it is, and coaches have plans A, B, C, and D, and E. We got Z now.